Hey guys, it's Jenna. Welcome back to my channel today. Oh, hello. Sorry, someone wants to say hi. Hi. Hi, honey. Hello, you saying hi to everyone. Hello. Oh, you're such a cute boy. Anyways, back to scheduled programming. Today we're going to be talking about the new Mini Metropolis by Natasha Denona, as well as my thoughts on the Natasha Denona Glam Palette, which is this little baby for this year. Sorry, the baby Glam Palette. There we go. So I do have some thoughts on both of these, and I figured I would let you guys know if I think they're worth picking up this holiday or not. So let's dive right on into it with the first one, which will be the Metropolis palette. As you can see, I do have the Metropolis on my eyes today. I think it turned out beautifully, and the big Metropolis palette is actually a palette I decluttered not that long ago. So it's one that I chose not to continue to have in my collection, basically because although it was a fantastic formulated product, I didn't really find overall that the palette suited my personal needs because it was quite dark overall. I felt there were lots of very deep colors that I don't typically wear. So when I saw that Natasha came out with this one, I was super excited because she sort of highlights that really deep blue that I miss from the old palette, as well as a really beautiful like orangey gold color. And then she has some very wearable shades to put this together so that you can sort of bridge that gap between having some shades that are a little bit more easy to use, those creamy mattes that she creates, and then add some of that really beautiful sparkle for the holiday. Natasha Denona did a cute little bundle this year where she put the mini together along with this cute little brush. This is a really nice brush to use on the go. It actually is the exact same sort of sparkly deep teal blue packaging as the palette itself. So it's really kind of nice, a little bit of a bonus there. I would say this brush is decent quality. It is one that is more so on like the shading kind of side of things. So you would probably use this for all over the lid when you're starting out building the foundation of your look. This bundle is available at Sephora as well as Beautylish and Natasha Denona's website for $25 American or 33 Canadian dollars. Important to note that this brush is basically a freebie because the price of this palette is the same as the other minis that are sold singly. So let's start off with the palette itself and the outer packaging, which is super beautiful. It's very consistent with Natasha Denona's other minis. She does tend to have this really nice, like, sort of plastic see-through window when you actually pick up one of these minis, so it's very easy to visualize the shades inside. So you can see that this palette is made in Italy. It is a 5-pan palette. It is cruelty-free, a 24-month shelf life as well. And from left to right, we have the shade Blaze, Rope, Jubilee, Bowl, and Corrode. 3 of these shades have been pulled from the big Metropolis into this mini. The first 3 from left to right are the repeat shades. So we do have Blaze, Rope, and Jubilee, which are found in the Metropolis palette. The other 2 are new shades, and the entire palette is limited edition. Again, going back to the shades in this palette, Blaze is considered a crystal. We have Rope, which is a creamy matte, Jubilee, which is a metallic, Bowl, which is a creamy matte, and Corrode, which is a creamy matte. Now, when I was preparing the swatches for this video, right off the bat, it's interesting. I remember the softness and the creaminess of the formulation in the big Metropolis palette, and it's why I do miss it, but still a reason why I stand by my declutter decision is honestly, these 3 shades that are featured in the mini are basically the only shades that I used on a regular basis from the palette. So I actually don't regret that I decluttered it. However, I remember these finishes and how they felt as if I just swatched them yesterday. And I will say that in this mini, I do think it's like a fraction stiffer than the big palette, but not to the point where it's deal breaking, where I feel like the formulations have drastically changed. They definitely haven't, but I do think maybe that the formula is packed a tad tighter in this mini palette, so when you're actually pulling it up with a swatch with a fingertip, that it sort of appears or feels right upon the first touch like it's a little stiffer. Now for my look today, do you guys love this? I'm kind of obsessed with it, and I've only recently started putting on lashes again. This might be okay, but I'm kind of like a little uneasy about lashes still because I'm not used to seeing myself with them. But all over the lid, I started out with the basically pale beige shade, which is Corrode. Applied like any typical creamy matte that I am used to from Natasha Denona. It layered very well and the fallout was basically zero. There are some shades in this palette that do provide fallout, we will get to it, but the creamy matte is not one of them. Then I went all over the lid with the other creamy matte. There's actually 3 in here, but the creamy matte by the name of Rope, which is actually in Metropolis. I was able to layer this one just as well as the first one, and I do feel like this one is one that you can blend really easily, you can layer really easily. Of course it sort of caps out because I've put that Rope shade over top of that beige, so it's not as vibrant as if it was a standalone shade on the lid, but I do think when you put them together, it still looks absolutely beautiful and kind of like a fall look. You know, if you just left this with some gold, it would look stunning. But I did not stop there. The next shade I went into was that sparkly metallic blue, which is Jubilee, the shade that I did miss from Metropolis, and the shade, in my opinion, that brings you to be mesmerized by the Metropolis palette. Don't get me wrong, I do think that that big palette is lovely if you choose to make use of all of the shades, but this is one standout shade in my opinion, and it applied just as easily in the mini version, which I love. Now this one though provides a little bit of fallout on the face, so just so you guys know, I did notice a significant amount of blue shimmer on my upper cheek there, but applied beautifully. I actually started off with a brush application, and then to make it more intensified, I did go in with a fingertip. I added a little bit of that brown shade, which is Bole, I think is how you say it, B-O-L-E. Hopefully I said that right. I actually went in with a very small natural haired brush for this step and just placed it on the outer corner. Super easy to do. I do think that this is a perfect shade to add just a touch of dimension there, and because it's a really beautiful deep brown, it sort of anchors this look to make it more wearable, if that makes sense. It also sort of linked it more to a fall kind of look to me. I don't know, I'm just like staring at my eyes in absolute wonder right now and wanting to never take this off. So I do love how that last shade turned out to really pull some of that depth in, especially on the outer corner there of the lid. Like the other 2 creamy mattes though, very easy to blend this out. With a natural haired brush, I do feel like it sort of picked up the pigment a little bit easier than the 2 synthetic brushes. So just keep that in mind. With Natasha's formula, especially the creamy matte, I don't know what it is. You can still get on fine with having a synthetic brush set to use with her formulas, but especially that creamy matte, for some reason, I love using natural haired like the rougher brushes or the Wayne Goss brushes because they just seem to pull that pigment a little bit better. I did intensify the blue with that fingertip in the next step, as well as adding some of that beautiful gold, which is Blaze. This is considered the crystal. She does tend to add a crystal in one of her minis, typically, usually kind of like a standard structural practice in Natasha Denona's building of the mini palettes. Lovely one, but this one also had fallout, and most likely because I was applying it with a fingertip. Her crystals tend to have a little bit of a flakiness to it. It's not heavy or anything, but it's certainly like something that you can visibly feel. So although they're really nice and creamy, they do tend to fall a little bit because they have a little bit of that texture. I didn't mind cleaning up with a makeup wipe just kind of under my eye there, but just so you guys know, be prepared for that step, especially if you're going to be applying these shimmer shades with a fingertip. So overall, you guys, I actually really like this palette. I think it's worth it. I do think if you have the Metropolis, it's not going to be worth it for you, of course. I mean, the majority of the shades are a repeat from the palette, so don't pick it up because the 2 that are new are very standard in our collections. We obviously have beiges like this and browns like this. No need to buy it if you have the big Metropolis. If you were sort of hemming and hawing over purchasing the big Metropolis palette, this one does a great job of capturing a couple of the highlights. Those 2 shimmers, in my opinion, are 2 of the most standout shades in the big palette. And like I said earlier, some of the 2 that I was just pulling from constantly. So this is, in my opinion, pulling some highlights, adding some wearable shades in. I think she did a great job with this one because it sort of makes it a little bit more wearable by pulling in some of those wearable browns and beige colors. I don't know, she's sort of like solved my problem with the big Metropolis because I was like, wow, this is so vibrant and I don't know if this is going to be everyday friendly all the time for me. A lot of people really love it, but for me, I just found it to be quite deep. And this is one that she sort of solved both my problems, like pulling the highlights from the Metropolis palette, but then also adding some really wearable browns and creamy mattes to sort of like anchor these beautiful shimmers. So she did a great job with it, I think. I do have it linked in my description box if you want to pick it up this holiday season, as well as all the other products on my face right now. And I paired this eye look with Pillow Talk lipstick today, and I do think it's super beautiful. I do not want to wash this off. I did forget to mention that my last step in my makeup look was adding a little bit of blue as well as a little bit of gold kind of underneath there on the bottom lid, and I think it just made everything come together so beautifully. I also added a pair of velour lashes on today. Like I said, it's not something I typically do, but I do like the look overall. All right, let's talk about Baby Glam next, which is this little mini trio here. Now, Natasha actually put this one in sort of like a holiday ornament type format. It's supposed to be something you hang on the tree, I guess. In theory, I think it was a good idea, but for some reason, my palette, it does not stay inside the contraption. It sort of falls flat. It's not like it's anchored in there securely where you could actually see the palette face up inside the box, like the actual ornament section. If you take it out of the plastic, which is like, this is what it's surrounded in, is just this plastic, you know, square. Once you take it out, the palette is free falling. So just be careful, because I feel like you could open this and then the palette could fall flat on the floor and break. So just be careful with that. I do wish she would have anchored it somehow a little bit better in that ornament, but again, I'm nitpicky with that. This is a palette, of course, strongly influenced by this baby, which is the Glam Palette. It is the Midi palette, one of the best-selling palettes from Natasha, and for good reason. This is a collection of cool-toned amazingness. It's so absolutely beautiful. So this palette is sort of like a cute little like stocking stuffer, or just for someone that wants to get a glimpse of the Glam Palette. Certainly this is one look only. This is not what this palette will do for you, which is having quite a bit of a versatility there. So the shades that are repeated in the Baby Glam are all on the top row here. So we have this one here, which is outer eyelid up here, and then these two at the end that are repeated in the trio. When it comes to price point, it is 19 American dollars for this guy, and this is the only one not at Sephora right now. I don't know if it's going to be coming to Sephora, but it's on Natasha's website and Beautylish. So like I said, this little Baby Glam ornament is 19 American dollars or 24 Canadian dollars. So I guess a little bit more than a stocking stuffer or on a Christmas tree ornament. I guess it's if you have like a bougie tree or a bougie stocking stuffer budget. The outer packaging of this little baby is identical to the Midi palette. It's just obviously a heck of a lot smaller. And this is one that has like the same color story where it's that really cool tone silver. And just like the other mini, the Metropolis that we just talked about, it does have that same like plastic, you know, outer cover there. So you can actually visualize the shades without having to open them up, right? So that's really nice. And because this is meant to just sort of be a one look kind of situation, we do have two of the creamy mattes, it looks like, and then we have one metallic. It's so, so pretty. The first thing I wanted to make sure of was that the quality was maintained in this little one, and it is. When I swatched them, so I swatched the trio by itself first, you can see how absolutely stunning it is. Then I swatched the Midi palette to the left of it so I could just sort of see how they felt. And I actually do feel like my theory about the Metropolis is true, because upon the first swatch of even this one, which is the metallic here, I was sort of like swatching that metallic right beside the Midi metallic to see like, do they feel the same? Like, did she cut corners anywhere? Is the quality consistent? And when I did the first swatch of this little baby, it felt a little tighter. Like I said, like, I don't know if she just presses it a little bit different, like just slightly. It's enough for me to notice. But certainly, like, once I warmed it up and did the second swatch, it was totally fine. You get a fresh mini palette and it feels a little bit denser than the larger counterpart for whatever reason. Now, when it comes to the size of pan, let's see, we have 0.8 grams times 3. This one is, oh, I hate this. She did this. She did total here. Now I got to do math. Hold on a second. Just for your reference, the Glam Palette shades are about 1.28 grams each. These are 0.8. They are smaller in the amount of product you get as well. So I figured that, given that it looked a little smaller, but I also wasn't sure because like this size is a little bit deceptive. It looks like it could be the same size as the Midi if you looked really close, but it definitely is a little bit smaller. So who is the Baby Glam perfect for? Probably for someone that doesn't have the big one, that's for sure, because it's an absolute duplicate, right? In all senses of the word, it is dupable in quality and obviously the exact same shades. So it's definitely for people that don't have glam, but I also think if you are a hella big fan of glam, I don't know about you, but I have a really hard time traveling with Natasha's palettes. This midi size and up, I have a really hard time with, and I just don't know if it's because the breakability of these palettes is significant. When you actually order them from retailers, they are very well packed. They have bubble wrap, they have a cardboard box on a box. It's just to protect those really delicate, soft formulas that are so easily breakable. So if you put this in a travel bag, good luck. I'll send a prayer for you because you do not want this to break in transit on a trip. So this could also be a good way for like the hella fan to grab one of these for travel purposes alone, because you can get that trio on the go and you don't have to worry about this. Like this is going to be way, way harder to break than that midi palette. So also kind of another way to think about it. But other than that, both of these are consistent quality to the big counterparts, and the new shades in Mini Metropolis are a great addition in my opinion. So I do think both of them are great. If you have any concerns at all, let me know down below. I'd be happy to help you with any questions. I review all of Natasha's palettes, so if you have another review that you're interested in, don't forget to subscribe for any new ones, but also take a look. I most likely have it on my channel already to help you out on picking out the best Natasha palette for you. Until my next one, take care and stay safe. Bye guys!